Great. I'm, I'm now calling the Tuesday, October 15th, 2024 regular meeting of the Los Altos Hills County Fire District Board of Commissioners to order. The time is 7:08 p.m. Please note we're conducting a hybrid meeting, which allows staff and members of the public to attend this meeting via virtual teleconference. The hybrid meeting will be video recorded and posted on the district's website. Because we are video conferencing, we will follow a strict protocol for the benefit of the recording. I will indicate when commissioners, staff, presenters, and the public will provide comments. If you've called into the meeting and are not using a webcam, please state your name prior to providing your comment for the benefit of the recording. Please practice considerate video conferencing etiquette by muting your line when you are not speaking and limiting distracted behavior on camera. District Clerk Vargas, please conduct a roll call.
Okay, Commissioners, I will be conducting all roll calls this evening in the same order. Please remember the order so that you are prepared to provide your comments or vote. President Spreen?
Here.
Vice President Sherlock?
Here.
Commissioner Basigi?
Here.
Commissioner McDonald?
Here.
Commissioner Tonka? Commissioner Tyson?
Here.
Commissioner Warren?
Here.
And we have 6 commissioners present, which is a quorum. For the benefit of the recording, I will also conduct a presenters, consultants, and staff roll call. Santa Clara County Fire Department Fire Chief Kirkhow.
Good evening. Here.
Thank you. Fector and Company Financial Audit Consultant German.
Here.
Thank you. Municipal Resource Group Human Resources and Strategic Planning Consultant Scott is in the audience. Community Education Risk Reduction Manager Gluhan.
Present.
Thank you. Emergency Services Manager Beebe.
Present.
Programs Planning and Grants Manager Woods.
Present.
Technical Analyst Project Manager Cronin.
Here.
Project Operations Manager Russell is here. General Analyst Georgie. Field Manager Harmon is not here. Technical Data Analyst Martinez. Thank you. Community Events Specialist Sachdiva.
Present.
Project Manager Administration Revlar.
Here.
Okay. Project Manager Risk Reduction King Rowe. Okay. Finance Manager Moriali.
Present in Zoom.
General Manager Logan.
Present.
Okay. Deputy County Counsel Forbath.
Present.
Okay. Presenters, consultants, and staff are accounted for.
Thank you very much. We will now move on to item 2, President remarks. All I'll do is I just want to thank staff for being here early to set this up for the special meeting. And thank you to everyone who's been waiting online for our delay as we finished up that special meeting. It's an important one and we appreciate everyone's time. So let's just move forward. Item 3, public comment. Persons wishing to address the commission on any subject not on the agenda may do so now. Please note, however, the commission is not able to undertake extended discussion on or action tonight on items not on the agenda. Items may be referred to staff for appropriate action, which may include placement on the next available agenda. District policy is to limit public testimony to 3 minutes per speaker, unless the number of speakers requires me to impose shorter time limits. Do we have any public comment on items not on the agenda?
I am not seeing any.
Okay, in that case, we'll move on to item 4, agenda amendments and changes. Are there any comments from staff on this item? Seeing none. Would any commissioners like to make any changes in the order of the agenda? Seeing none. In that case, let's see. Let's move on to item 5, which is the consent calendar. Are there any comments from staff on the consent calendar items? Seeing none. Are there any questions from commission on the consent items? Seeing none, I will now entertain a motion. Will the commissioner making the motion and the commissioner seconding the motion please state your names for the benefit of the recording?
McDonald makes a motion.
Warren seconds.
Thank you very much. The item's open for discussion. Any discussion? Any public comment? Seeing none. In that case, we will now vote. District Clerk Vargas, please conduct the roll call.
President Spreen.
Yes.
Vice President Sherlock.
Yes.
Commissioner Basigi.
Yes, except the 5A, which I abstain because I wasn't here.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner McDonald.
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson.
Yes.
Commissioner Warren.
Yes.
Okay, and the motion passes 6-0 with 1 abstaining on item 5A and 1 absent.
That was a good reminder. I should have abstained from A as well.
Okay,
Apologies.
no problem. So motion passes 6-0 with 2 abstaining on 5A and 1 absent.
Great. Now moving on to item 6, Fire Chief Report. Item 6A is the monthly report for September 2024. Item 6B is the September report for Station 8. Fire Chief Kirkhoff, if you could please provide the reports.
Good evening, President Spring. Good evening, commissioners and staff. I'll wait for Corey to go ahead and put up the report. All right. Last month, we were definitely blessed by good weather. We have had a very busy summer through mutual aid deployments, and we were able to recover a little bit in-house with having all units or most of the units back in the district or in the response service area. Go ahead and go to the next page, Corey. It was a little bit slower than the previous months with just, there's a little something on the screen there. I don't know if it's my computer. I can't read the right-hand column there, but it looks like there were, I'm guessing here. There you go. Thank you. 72. 72 incidents. You see how they are spaced out, nothing earth-shattering. There were 3 calls for fires. All 3 of them were coded after the fact as smoke odor or smoke alarm. When I looked through the reports, nothing was found. These were on Moody Road and Lorena Road, in which that one was a barbecue. And again, we do, as a reminder, we do risk-based dispatching, which is based on what the caller calls in. We send the appropriate, what we consider to be an effective response force to that call so that we can mitigate it early, save what we can save if it is an active incident in which there might be risk to either life, property, or the environment. And then we definitely backfill. So El Monte area, as in particular, is never without coverage. The other thing that is on the report at the very bottom, again, Corey, if you can go back, was a big threshold for us, or a big milestone for us. We have started working through our partners with County Communications, AVL dispatching. Prior to that, the unit would have to go into what was called a zone building block, log that they were there. They no longer have to do that. The CAD, the new CAD that was replaced almost a year ago to date, now in the second phase of the CAD implementation, allows for closest unit to respond through automatic vehicle location technology. So we will continue to work through that with the ops chief having a plan to do a 6-month analysis and a full year analysis. And we do anticipate that our call times will go down because it is now truly based on which unit is closest rather than sort of building a zone building block. So that's the end of that first report. And this one here is for Palo Alto Station 8 staffing. That's going to be item B, in which there were 6 calls in total. And I believe this one, again, was from, have to think here, Palo Alto Fire, excuse me, from County Fire in September, who staffed Station 8. And currently Palo Alto is staffing Station 8. We did reach out to General Manager Logan this morning. We are closely watching the red flag warning that is on the horizon. There's going to be an update in the morning regarding what the predicted services are saying about this potential red flag warning, and it's specifically for high winds. With that said, working through General Manager Logan, we have worked through a plan where Palo Alto plans to continue staffing through the red flag time period, which is estimated from Thursday through Saturday. And then we, County Fire, as the op area coordinator, are working with our local jurisdiction partners to upstaff throughout the county. Again, that'll be a pre-position through Cal OES and the Cal OES process that's allowed through the model that potentially is on the horizon. Again, we don't have anything solid as of this evening because we're waiting for the weather report, the National Weather Service report, to be finalized tomorrow morning to then determine what staffing would be appropriate based on the risk. With that said, that's the end of the report. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any discussion or questions from Commission?
No, she answered all mine about the red flag warnings. So yeah,
Great.
upstaffing and
Excellent. Any public comments or questions? Seeing none. Great. Thank you so much. We appreciate the report.
Thank
We will
you.
now move
Have a
on to
good evening.
item 7. Moving on to item 7. 7A is to receive a presentation of the fiscal year 24 draft audited annual financial report. Finance Manager Moriali, will you please introduce this item?
Yes, and it's a pleasure to present this item. President Spreen, Vice President Sherlock, and Commissioners. I'm waiting for the presentation slide to come up. I think it's the previous one, Corey, the one from the finance staff. And then we'll get started. Okay, thank you, Corey. So again, it's a pleasure again to present the financial audit overview for the year ended June 30th, 2024. Next slide, please, Corey. Really, I'm just going to spend a few minutes providing a brief executive summary from the staff's perspective, then from the internal perspective. But really, the main speaker for tonight, as it should be, is Scott German, who's with our CPA firm of Fector and Company. And he will present right after this and really dig into the audit and give you the auditor's perspective on the report. And then this is open to commission's questions and answers as well. After that, we'll open it up for questions and answers. And then lastly, I'll ask Serena Revelar to introduce something new this year that we're very proud of, and that is a 10-year statistical section. It's not an audited report, but in future years, it will be a supplemental add-on to the audit as we enhance the document even further. So that is the essence of my piece of the presentation this evening. And next slide, please. The report really asks for the commission to receive and approve, and that is to receive, ask questions, and then hopefully approve the audit for the year ending June 30th, 2024. Once it's approved, we will transmit this quickly and promptly to the county. In fact, tomorrow, if everything goes as planned. It's also important to note that we did have an ad hoc commission meeting on October 4th. That consisted of board members Roger Spreen and George Tyson. And at that time, it was an opportunity for the ad hoc commission members to directly speak to the auditor and ask questions specifically about the audit. And so that meeting was held successfully. No changes were made to numbers, although we did make some edits to some text. But at the same time, it's essentially the same report. And we were really happy to have had that opportunity for the commission ad hoc to speak directly with the auditor. Next slide, please. For the benefit of the public, I just wanted to mention that there are 7 sections of the document. I won't go through each one, but they're all critical sections. Section 1 is the auditor's opinion. That's one of the most valuable pieces where the auditor does attest to his or her findings in the audit process. There's the management discussion and analysis, which is the section 2 that is written by staff and reviewed by the auditor, but essentially written by staff to give an overview of the year. There's section 3, which are the government-wide financial statements. The auditor will speak more to this. And this is the financial statements with a private perspective, if you will. Full accruals, full recognition of assets, much like the private arena would present them. Section 4 is the classic governmental financial statements. And these really are cash-based, modified accrual-based, and really focused on budget to actual. So it really communicates exactly what was spent, what cleared the bank, and it really focuses in on actual resources used and resources received. So that's also a key focus. The notes to the financial statement on section 5 are critically important. They describe key elements of the financials. And of course, the budget to actual report in section 6. Section 7 is the report on internal controls, which Scott will speak to as well. So that, in essence, is the document which we officially file with the county effective tomorrow. Next slide, please. We're happy to report that we've received a clean opinion. That is the best opinion we can receive. It's called unqualified, and it is not qualified for any errors or omissions. There are no deficiencies noted, no instances of non-compliance. But I do want to say, and I mentioned this to the ad hoc as well, that this is a significant audit in that it includes a significant and material asset valuation restatement and adjustment. So we took the opportunity, and Scott will speak to this more, to really look at our hydrants in particular, our hydrant infrastructure, and look at the valuation and propose a significant adjustment for that to reflect its proper costing. So even though the audit was clean, it does have a material adjustment, which I think is a very productive and favorable adjustment. But it's something that we wanted to make sure we included in this audit this particular year once we did the appropriate analysis. Next slide, please. There are some operational highlights that really, if you look at the numbers, may get lost, but I wanted to point them out. And this is from a perspective of staff in terms of how the year went. You'll see, if looking at the audit, that we are recognizing the execution of a contract for $1.9 million with Central Fire. And we recognize that in the commitment of funds that you'll see on the balance sheet on the net assets and positions. So you will see that commitment reflected for the first time, increasing our commitments from 14 million to 15.9 million. This was a robust year for the IHFR Defensible Space Brush Chipping and Debris Removal Program. That's a mouthful. And you'll see, again, we're approaching almost $1 million in that particular program, another robust year there. Also on evacuation routes, we saw an incredible increase in attention to evacuation routes, going to 6 evacuation routes, which essentially doubled the prior year for a total of $570,000. We see movement and momentum in the HIZ programs. Prior year, there was less than $10,000, if you will, noted in that particular activity. Almost $100,000 was reflected in this particular year. So we're seeing momentum and drive in HIZ, which we're extremely proud of. And of course, the continuation of collaboration with the City of Palo Alto and Central Fire, with the staffing of a Palo Alto Foothills Park Fire Station, and that amounted to about $440,000, an amount consistent with the prior year. Next slide, please. Additionally, you see the resources starting to come on board that we were blessed with the approval of the commission. And you see now the hiring of a full-time field manager to increase production in IHFR, a hiring of a full-time general analyst, which is paying great dividends, the upgrade of the part-time budget manager to the finance manager position. You'll see additional dollars put towards staff training opportunities. And even though it's not large dollars, we are proud to say that all staff now is fully equipped with IT equipment, both on a remote and an in-house office basis as well. Next slide, please. Lastly, in terms of budget highlights, we had a healthy year. It's not a surprise. We have a significant increase in fund balances. Revenues came in about 7 to 8%. 7% this year over estimated. It was 8% over last year's actual basis when you compare actual to actual. Expenditures were well under budget for sure. There were 38% savings in the expenditure, but that's due to really timing and scheduling of projects. Most significant is the fact that we have not paid for the fire truck yet, and that amounts to about $2.1 million. Of course, we still have vacancies, and those position vacancies amounted to savings of about $1 million. We did not yet complete the study of the fire facility. That's about $250,000. And of course, there's fire season contingencies, which we did not need to use. Those were extra seasonal crews, hand crews, and contingencies. That's about $800,000. And of course, even though we've made great headways in projects and programs, there's still many that are in planning and development, specifically I-280, fuel breaks, access roads, and general project contingencies. But I do want to note, though, that if you look at projects in total, they have nearly doubled. Expenditures in terms of projects and programs have nearly doubled since 2022. So we're clearly going in the right directions in terms of using the resources to get the boots in the field and on the ground and getting the projects completed. Those are the financial highlights. And lastly, if you look at actual cash in the bank, this is what we look like. As of the end of 2024, we have total fund balance of $44.1 million. $15.956 million is committed this year, and the addition there of the fire apparatus commitment, leaving 28.2 unassigned. And that is about a 13% increase over the prior year. And with that, the next slide. With that, I am very pleased to introduce Scott German, who can give you the audit perspective. And with that, Scott, the floor is all yours.
Okay, can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you for having me. And Russ gave you most of the numbers, but I'll just take you through some of the key components from my perspective. Some things that we need to communicate to all the boards and management every year. What is an audit? It's really us coming in, looking at the information provided by management, testing it on a sample basis, and providing our opinion as to whether it presents a materially true and fair view of the organization's financial performance and results of operations. It's important to remember that management and you, the board, are responsible for the accurate presentation, the fair presentation, and establishing systems and policies to achieve the goal of presenting fair information. Your responsibilities include selection of appropriate accounting policies, which are noted in the financial statements, making sure the financial statements are presented fairly and accurately, and implementation of system of controls, part of which is your monthly review of financial information and asking those questions and understanding how the district is doing. Note 2 is where the financial policies are primarily presented. Some of the basic ones, how the financial statements are presented, the measurement focus, which is, what do we look at when we're measuring the numbers, presenting the numbers, estimating the numbers, property tax levy dates, and equity classifications. Probably the biggest issue that is specific to your district is the capital asset, capitalization, and depreciation policies, because those are some of your biggest items on the balance sheet. We're responsible for forming an opinion based on what we see. Remember, an audit is providing reasonable assurance, not absolute assurance. Hiring us as auditors and performance of the audit doesn't relieve management of the responsibility of making sure these financial statements are accurate and fairly presented. Some other things, difficulties encountered, corrected misstatements. We didn't find any errors because we knew going in there was going to be an issue with the fire hydrants. No disagreements with management. No consultations with our other accountants, no other findings, and no other matters that we need to bring to your attention. The meat of it, as Russ said, we've got a clean opinion. We explain how we arrived at that, what standards we use to arrive at that. And then we explain that the supplementary information that's included, we look at it, but we are not providing an opinion on it. There's nothing in there that jumps out and says, oh, this is in direct 180 degrees from what we see in the financial information. As Russ said, probably the biggest issue that we dealt with this year with the fire hydrants valuation and the capitalization thereof. There was approximately $4.5 million expended between 2011 and 23 for fire hydrant projects. In the past, these weren't capitalized. In the books, the way that they were shown in the fund financial statements, they were expenditures every year. They just never made it as capitalization because of some disagreements as to, or some not understanding at the time how or what was being done. Like I said, current administration wanted to make sure that the financial statements were more fairly stated, more accurately reflected the scope of what the district is providing to the community. So they wanted to make sure that those hydrants were there, because as the community grows and as things happen to those hydrants, they need to be considered. The net adjustment this year, in other words, we had to bring it on at the beginning of the fiscal year, which was July 1st. So what we did is we calculated what the asset cost was and what the accumulated depreciation was. That netted to $3.2 million at July 1st. Then from that point on, they're just treated as regular assets and depreciated accordingly. The district, we had discussions with the district engineer to determine the number of hydrants installed, and which ones were replaced, and the product of historical maps and the number of hydrants and technological changes that made the hydrants need to be replaced at one point to get us to the estimated value. And this really is an estimated value. Yes, we have invoices that show us what the cost was at those times and all those factors, but it's still going to be an estimate no matter what we do, because we're taking the number and dividing it, and this hydrant might be more expensive than this one just because it was harder to put in. So what we do, net position, which is essentially the equity of the district on a government-wide basis, which is the long-term basis. So your fund balance, as Russ showed you earlier, was $44 million. Capital assets, the biggest item that's not a short-term item, is $4.9 million, which is the hydrants that we added on plus all the other assets that the district owns. And then there's accrued compensated absences, accrued vacation, to get us to the net position of $49 million. Statement of activities. So revenues on the fund statement, so the current basis, which basically leaves out all of your depreciation and long-term items, but treats capital asset purchases as expenses. So there we had $5.2 million of net income, if you will. We have depreciation expense that's recorded on the other basis, so we have to subtract that out. We bought capital assets for $67,000. And then the difference between what we have at the beginning and end of the year for compensated absences was about $33,000. So that gives us a net position or net income of $5.1 million on the government-wide basis. Cash and investments, you can see that went up a bit this year. Net book value of the fixed assets went up, and that's the big number there is the hydrant project. Total liabilities comparable to last year. Total revenues, up a little bit, but not really, $1 million, not that big on your basis. Public protection, again, you spent about $1 million more, which is what you expected. Notes to the financial statements, just more detail, more explanation of what's in some of those numbers. The budget versus actual revenues were over budget by $1.1 million. Expenses were under budget by 7.3. And it sounds like a big number, but when you look, at the beginning of the year, when you're sitting there thinking, okay, this is what we think we're going to do this year, you plan on doing these projects, but for whatever reason, you can't get contractors, you need more time to plan it, whatever, those projects don't come to fruition. So you end up with a big variance here. This isn't because of bad budgeting as much as just timing issues. So which means net income was over budget, which is a good thing, by 8.4 million, $849,000. I left a comma out there. The control report, the district has good controls in place, working with the county. There's of scrutiny that's placed on all the activities. The commission's oversight is key to making sure that the district's controls remain strong. We think that everything is going fine there. And with that, thank you, and I can take some questions if you'd like.
Thank you, Scott, and President Spreen. We're available now for questions before we get into the statistical section on the audit in general. Corey, I don't hear any volume, Corey. Scott, can you hear volume?
Wise.
I do not hear commissioners at all.
Neither do I, Russ.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, it apparently was on mute from the commission standpoint, so we can now hear you.
I just want to make a comment really to commission here to recognize that this change of hydrants took an incredible amount of work from staff, both in the archaeology of the expenses. You saw that back to 2011 on everything's been spent there, but the engineering analysis also of what's there. And the reason I found it important is that we want the balance sheet to reflect what this organization does. So that when people look at us remotely and say, what does this organization do? The fact that there's a significant asset that we manage, we want that to be right there, not something that you have to explain later on as to what you do. So it's important to be out front, and really it's a transparency item, but it's also a way of really letting people know who we are from the very front. And it really represents a lot of work. This was not just an afternoon's Excel exercise. This was a multiple weeks of effort, hoping they could fit it into this year's exercise of closing the book. So our thanks to all the staff involved with that. And by the way, I want to also thank the staff for getting an unqualified opinion is a big step, and it makes us breathe a lot easier when everything is so clean and so well taken care of. So our thanks to everyone for that. Any questions? If not, we will. Oh, Toby.
I have a brief question. Do we have any type of relationship with Cal Water, since they also serve a significant number of the hydrants in our district, and they have done no improvements like you guys have done with the other water company? I was just curious.
I know we communicate with both water companies. I don't know if the general manager has any comments on that, or.
Yes, I can just make the distinction between Cal Water relationship and Purisima Hills Water District. So in Purisima Hills Water District, the district, Los Altos Hills County Fire District, owns the hydrants, and we own those and the laterals and the bury, the various appurtenances to the hydrants up to the water main. And then in comparison, when we go to Cal Water, they own all of the infrastructure of the hydrants. So they own the hydrant, the laterals, bury, the infrastructure up, and including the main. So our relationship with Cal Water is more of a cooperation. And oftentimes when Cal Water comes in and does a water main improvement, they'll ask for our expertise as to the location of their hydrants and where they should be. So that's been pretty much our interactions with Cal Water.
Okay, because I know in the area around the country club,
yes,
there are areas where they've missed a hydrant. Like they're supposed to be every 500 feet,
yes,
and they're over 1,000 feet. And I was just.
I know this is bringing up some memories.
Yes, in years past, we actually did some preliminary conversations with Cal Water around addressing some of those deficiencies in the areas served by Cal Water. And the way, because we don't own those assets, what we can influence and have Cal Water do for us is rather limited. So We are very able to, we have a lot of flexibility with what we can do with the assets we own, but because those assets are actually owned by a publicly traded company, it gets very sticky.
Thank you.
Great questions. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, is there anything else, Finance Manager Moriali?
I just wanted to thank you for the comments, President Spreen, on the hydrant issue. There are many people to thank, and not the least of which is Jeff Tarantino from Fryer and Loretta. We brought up the hydrants issue last year as something we wanted to look at. And he was just stellar in digging in, providing us with all the detail. And then, of course, I have to thank staff, Corey, for all her unending search of documents and costing records as well, for all the work that went into the audit process. With just a lot of work, as you mentioned, and a lot of people that really jumped into the process to make this work. We're very proud of the hydrant adjustment. It is a big adjustment for sure, but it's the right one, and it does properly reflect the asset value for such an important asset. So thank you so much. And with that, if there's no other questions, we can move on to the statistics at your discretion.
Let's do that.
Actually, no, agenda is, so 7B, what we do next is to approve the audit, then we move.
Thank you, Tori.
Thank you for checking this. Okay, great. Let's see. So 7B is to approve the fiscal year 24 audited financial report for submission to the County Controller Treasurer Department. I will now entertain a motion.
Easy move that be approved. Sorry.
Sherlock seconds.
Go ahead, please.
We have Basiji and motion and Sherlock seconding. Great. Open for discussion. Any further discussion? Any public comment on this item? Seeing none, let's have a vote.
Okay. President Spreen.
Yes.
Vice President Sherlock.
Yes.
Commissioner Basiji.
Yes.
Commissioner McDonald.
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson.
Yes.
Commissioner Warren.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes 6-0 with 1 absent.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And now we can move on to item 7C to receive the informational presentation of financial statistics. And this will be Project Manager Administration Brevelar presenting this item.
Good evening, President Spreen and Commissioners. And
There you go.
there you go. I'm not going to go through every chart, but we did want to introduce the statistical section this year, and we will be providing this information in our financial statements in the years to come. The statistical section is just a snapshot of our information that shows the trends from year to year. They're all in one place, so you don't have to go back to previous financial statements to look at the numbers that all be in this section. But Corey, if you could go to the next page. I wanted to point out a few things. The next page, Corey, please. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're on page 3 now.
Page 3. Can you not see?
Yes, page 4, please. So here's a section that shows our committed funds. And it shows it from year to year, and you could see how it has evolved through the 10-year period. And so in the current fiscal year 23-24, as Scott and Russ has stated, we have a total of 44 million with the unassigned of 28 million. So I think this is a real good snapshot of where our funds are and what we have our committed funds for. Next slide. This chart is of our fund balance and where we spend the money and where we receive the money throughout the years. And I really like this snapshot so that you could really easily see how our revenue has evolved in addition to how our expenses also has. Next slide. This is just in a nutshell where the sources of our tax revenues and where it comes from in each year. And you could see how it has evolved, especially for property tax. Next slide. Next slide. This is the demographic statistics, and we get this from the California Department of Education, and it shows year to year the population for the county, the school enrollments, and unemployment and so forth. Next slide. And this is the chart where it shows your FTEs by service area. And as you can see, starting in 1819, the district hired General Manager Jay Logan, and staffing has increased and evolved with all the projects and work that we do. And I think that's the last chart, and that's the end of my presentation. So if you have any questions, staff is available.
Great. Thank you. Any questions? Any comments on the upward trend of revenues and fund balances and projects as well? So, no comments here. Any public comments? No. Great. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Yeah, President Serena, I just wanted to mention, it's only a 10-page report, but I want to thank Serena for really putting this all together. And what we're trying to achieve here is really trying to emphasize the long-term vision, if you will, not only looking back, but also as we develop 10-year forecasts in the future, looking forward. And this tool really gives us a platform to pull from. It also, by the way, in the future, helps us to create a document that could be submitted for national recognition and state recognition, although that's not the end all. But what it does do is it gives us the ability to try to employ all those best practices. So thank you, Serena, for all this hard work in putting this together.
And thank you, because we really appreciate it. We know what we're at an incredible level of financial control and analysis, and that's for a commission. That's great for us. So we really thank everyone involved with this.
And visibility.
And visibility and yeah. In that case, and thank you, Serena, and thank you, Russ. Let's see. We will now move on to item 8, the fiscal year 26 budget update. This is financial consultant Vargas providing this.
Okay, and it's the oddest thing. The screen share is not functioning properly tonight. Try that again. Okay. Yeah, well, okay, well, I guess screen share does not want to work tonight. I wanted to share with you the updated budget calendar, but it is in your agenda packet. I guess I will just work without sharing it. One sec.
Let's see.
Okay. So what I wanted to discuss tonight is, first of all, scheduling a date for the community meeting of the ad hoc budget subcommittee for the fiscal year 25-26. And historically, we do provide a community meeting. It's open to the public to attend. And we've tentatively scheduled that for November 12th, which is a Tuesday at 7:00 p.m. And that will be just for the members of the ad hoc budget subcommittee. Again, they are not subject to the Brown Act. So this is just a community meeting that we are doing for the benefit of the public, to be transparent.
And that's myself and Commissioner Basigi.
Yeah, thanks. And yes, exactly. And, oh, thank you. is
Oh, there you go.
Victoria to the rescue. And so, yeah, I haven't added that to the calendar yet, but what is discussed at that meeting is just a preliminary creation of a draft budget. No action is taken at that meeting. And then the next week, the following Tuesday, November 19th, is when the full commission will see an initial draft of that fiscal year 26 budget. If another ad hoc budget subcommittee meeting is needed, we can do so again in either December or January. And then in January 21st of 25, the fiscal year 26 draft budget will again be brought before the commission. At that point, due to the timing, due date timing for the Office of Budget and Analysis for the county, we don't really approve the draft, but you approve it for submission to OBA, is what we call them, Office of Budget and Analysis. And then at the February 18th meeting is a final draft budget approval by the full commission. If there were any changes, usually between the January meeting and the February meeting, the only changes that are made are county revenue projections, not generally anything on our side, but I don't want to rule that out. So, and then of course, following that is, like I said, yeah, on the day after the commission meeting, we officially tell OBA that we're good to go with the draft. The budget workshops for the Board of Supervisors are in May 12th through 14th. Usually we're on the second day. Don't know exactly what day, but we will provide further information at the meeting once we get closer to that. And then, of course, the budget hearings, June 16th, 17th, and final approval happening on the 20th. And then the commission, after the Board of Supervisors adopts, the commission comes back and adopts the budget as it was adopted by the Board of Supervisors. And as a reminder, again, we're pushing the June meeting back 1 week. So instead of the third Tuesday of the month, it'll be the fourth Tuesday of the month. And that again is due to the timing of the Board of Supervisors budget hearings. So that is it for my report there.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions from the commission on that calendar? Great. Okay. Any public comment on that item? Not seeing any.
Nope. Seeing none.
Great. We'll now move on to item 9, which is receiving a report on the I-280 hazardous fuel reduction project planning. Commissioner Warren will be presenting a report for us here.
Right. Thank you very much. Commissioner McDonald, keep me honest, make sure that I stay on script. So we had the opportunity last week to have our first subcommittee meeting with members of the staff and members from Jeff Tarantino from FNL. And so we went over the initial plan of for the next several months for this project. So first thing I want to say is this is a very complex project. When you look at all of the different elements that have to be managed in this project, it sounds on paper just straightforward, but it actually isn't, because the planning and the coordination that has to go in, finding the right subcontractors to do the work, to do it, and to do it safely, professionally, with all the different agencies involved. This is a very, very complex project. And so the initial place we're starting is that we need to identify a firm that will basically provide some services for us to actually manage this project. And so this is going to take us several months to develop the RFP, solicit bids, make a selection, and then actually execute that contract. And so well, I want to address one of the questions brought up by a member of the public, which is that as we go through this process to identify this firm has got to bring to the table a large set of skills to manage a complex project like of this in 280. And we want this company, this firm, to also be able to assist us in doing the initial study and assessment of the district parcel. And why those are bundled together is that this is going to be 4 months to get an RFP in place and executed for these services. The county assessment of the county parcel is part of our budget this year. It's part of our strategic plan. And so the assessment is made. Let's bundle these two together. They're not the same project, But if we identify a contractor that can provide both of these services and do it as once, as opposed to spending staff time to do this exercise twice, it doesn't make sense. That's why we brought this in, combined it in here, so that we can actually move the parcel project forward also fairly in the spring, as opposed to doing another RFP at that time, spending staff time to do that. And so that's why that's in there. The projects are separate, but the skill set we need from this vendor, a lot of it overlaps, and that's why it's in there together. Toby, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to follow up on that, I mean, Caltrans, there's so many rules we have to tiptoe through. You can't start until at 9 a.m. You have to finish by 3 p.m. You're dealing with 12 different entities for this few mile stretch of land. So if we can actually establish a good engineering company that we have a good relationship with that understands us, we'd be foolish not to continue using them for our future firehouse. So yeah.
All right. So with that, Eugenia, did we miss anything that you want to add?
Thank you for the opportunity, and you got it just right.
Thank you. All right. Anything on the staff memorandum report? And I think we're done for the readout. Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're the one who gets paid to talk.
I know. No, I was enjoying listening. Thank you, Commissioners Warren and McDonald. Any other discussion or questions here from the commission? I think well stated. We appreciate the report. Any public comment or questions?
I see none.
Seeing none. In that case, we will move on to item 10. Personnel. General Manager Logan will be presenting this item for us.
Thank you, President Spreen, commissioners, staff, consultants, and the public. Agenda item 10A is to approve the proposed second amendment to the Emergency Services Manager's Employment Agreement, which is included in the agenda packet. California Government Code Section 54953C3 requires the Commission to orally report a summary of the proposed compensation before taking final action to adopt that compensation, here by approving the employment agreement. Key components of the proposed compensation are described in detail in the proposed employment agreement. The proposed second amendment to the at-will full-time exempt emergency services manager employment agreement has an effective date of November 1st, 2024, and includes the following changes to compensation. 1, wages, sets the annual compensation at $179,920 per year, which is equivalent to a rate of pay of $86.50 per hour. All other compensation and benefits, including premium pay rate for assigned district emergency response special duties work, paid holidays, sick leave, technology stipend, vehicle stipend, and uniform allowance remains unchanged from the original employment agreement. And I recommend approval of the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager Logan. Any clarifying questions from the commission? No. In that case, I will entertain a motion.
Tyson will moves to approve the second amendment as noted in 10A.
McDonald seconds.
Thank you. Open for discussion. Any discussion? Any public comments?
I see none.
Seeing none, let's vote.
Okay, President Spreen,
Yes.
Vice President Sherlock,
Yes.
Commissioner Basigi,
Yes.
Commissioner McDonald,
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren.
Yes.
Okay, and the motion passes 6-0 with 1 absent.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 11, commission member reports. 11A is to inform us, to remind us that 4 commission terms will expire on December 6th of this year. District Clerk Vargas, can you provide any additional information on that?
Yes, thank you, President Spreen. So I just wanted to inform that the 4 vacancies have been advertised 3 times in the Los Altos Town Crier, once in August, once in September, and once in October. Interested residents of the Los Altos Hills County Fire District are required to submit an electronic application to the Office of the Clerk of the Board of Supervisors using the website linked to the Santa Clara County portal, which is provided on the agenda. Santa Clara County District 5 Supervisor Joe Simidian makes the appointment nominations, which are then considered for approval by the County Board of Supervisors.
Thank you,
the
District
end.
Clerk Vargas. Any question or discussion about that? It's pretty clear. Thank you. Any public comments or question on that? Seeing none. Moving on to item 11B, future agenda items. This is an opportunity for commissioners to provide reports or any future agenda topics. Any comments from the commission or any future topics they want to add that we're not already covering? Seeing none. Any public comment on this item? Seeing none. Moving on to item 11C. This is a notice that there will be a Los Altos Hills City Council meeting. That's not, let's don't confuse anybody. That's Los Altos Hills City Council meeting, not us, on October 22nd, 2024 at the Los Altos Hills Town Hall Chambers right here at 6 p.m. I will be presenting a commendation, which was approved earlier this evening in the consent calendar, and which District Clerk Vargas will be distributing for the commissioners' signatures after tonight's meeting. Commissioners are encouraged to attend the meeting to join in honoring Santa Clara County District 5 Supervisor Joe Simidian for his dedication and years of service in public office and support of this organization, for sure. It's an important notice. Any comments or questions? Again, that's October 22nd. I'm sorry? Great. Okay, let's see. Any public comments or questions on that? Seeing none. Moving on to 11D. This is a notice that the next regular commission meeting is scheduled for November 19th, 2024, in person and hybrid at this very same Los Altos Hills Town Hall Chambers. Any comments or any questions about attendance or anyone going to be here or not be here? Great. Any public comments on this scheduling item? Seeing none, we can move on to everyone's favorite item, item 12. Item 12, adjournment. This concludes the October 15th, 2024 regular meeting of the Los Altos Hills County Fire District. The meeting is adjourned at 8:04 p.m. Emergency Services Manager Bibi, please stop the recording.